It's almost like the boy was the drag part.
Fight the demons.
Let them talk.
I don't believe that.
Straight men love trans women.
We're happy and sad because it's the last episode of this season, but we have an amazing guest.
Who is she?
I don't know.
Is she? Who could it be?
We have the one and only Diane.
Hey, everybody.
Hello.
Thanks for
Welcome to
having
our
me.
show.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Such a pleasure.
Well, we're very excited to have you because you're coming on to tell us about your very unique experience and kind of what that's like. And we have questions and we know our viewers have questions. And so we want to try and learn and be able to educate our own viewers, our listeners. Sorry, no one's viewing us. Even though we're stunning.
I'm watching.
Oh, she's watching.
Well, thanks for having me over.
We're so excited
A pleasure.
to have you. First, transgender. What does transgender mean to you?
Well, to me, it means bringing your inside out and express yourself how you feel inside, spiritually, mentally, emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
So
When you were younger, when was the first time that you felt that your outer body didn't match your inner feelings?
okay, so I come from a Latin country, so there's a lot of machismo in that aspect. So my father was one of them. So I couldn't really express myself. So I guess I was always in a box and I had to behave certain way because it was not acceptable.
And it's probably still not, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So I remember as I'm growing up and stuff, I couldn't even as a teenager, acne and stuff like that. Your hormones all over the place. So anyway, so acne, I couldn't even do like a facial scrub, like just lemon and sugar, because that was like a girl thing.
Yeah.
So he was like super strict, even if it was just like skincare.
Really?
Yes.
Like that wasn't machismo, is taking care of your own skin.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But
Anything
that
soft.
was like girly.
Yeah.
And by the way, you're like one of the most gorgeous
You
women.
Thank you.
Your skin is
Definitely.
flawless. So that sugar scrub was working.
Yes.
So today, do you talk to your dad? Is your dad around?
My mom is still around. My dad passed many, many years ago.
Okay.
So yeah, they accepted me. I left my parents when I was like young, like 15 and a half or something like that. So I ran away from home.
Yeah. To follow your dreams and
Totally.
to be who you are and be happy.
Is that because your parents didn't accept you, or?
There was a lot of chaos going at home, and I guess I had a lot of guilt in a way, thinking that because of me or this or that, my father was behaving certain way towards my mother or whatever. So I just kind of went away. And
Where did you go to?
I went to a friend's house from high school. And then he was gay. At that point, he questioned me are you this? And I was like, no, I didn't say anything,
Yeah.
So, but I always hung out with girls ever since I remember, ever since I was a kid.
Yeah.
I was like the most, I wouldn't say like the most fragile, but my behavior was definitely not the normal, like other kids, like getting dirty and like chasing a ball and shit like that.
Now you chase a
Relatable.
different type of ball.
Totally.
Now you chase two
They gotta
balls.
come in pairs. But yeah, like I always sit with the girls, talk with the girls. So I guess my dad in that way was like, yeah, he was like, oh, like he's hanging out with the girls. But it's like, no, I was just part of it,
Yeah. That's so funny because it was the same with me. I grew up in Colombia and I will always play with girls. And I was obligated to play soccer, but I would rather play baseball because I was good with my hands ever since I was a child. So I was like, I would just play baseball instead of soccer. And yeah, I was playing baseball growing up to cover up the fact that I was a gay boy as a child. But yeah, I did the same thing. I would rather hang out with my cousin girls or the girlfriends that I used to have in the neighborhood and borrow their clothes or play with their dolls.
Yeah. I used to have ponies. I remember ponies and trolls. Like it was something. The hair ever since I was a kid. Yes.
That's cute.
So when do you remember first seeing someone who was transgender?
So my mother, she has a sister. So I had an auntie that was trans.
Oh, wow.
So I'm like the second one in the family. So
your mom
my mom's sister.
had a brother that is now your mom's sister.
Correct.
Wow. That's amazing. So I guess that gives a little bit of nod to maybe there's some genetic part of it.
Correct.
Or
so it was my mother's sister, and then I came out, and just after that my cousin from the same side of the family as well, she followed after. So my auntie kind of like didn't like me because of it. She kind of thought, I guess, there was some type of influence or whatever. But I was like, auntie, what do you mean? Like, he's been gay his whole entire childhood,
Yeah.
Like I was not even allowed to behave certain ways. So it's like, how can you blame me?
yeah. So you were gay, identified as gay when you were younger?
Honestly, I just didn't think about anything. I was just like living my life as a kid, and I just knew that I'd rather like study and do other stuff than go and play out. I'd rather just do my thing. My friends will come and try to like get me out, and I was like, oh, I'm grounded, and I was like lying about it. So I was growing, just like I said, as a kid. So in my mind, I wasn't thinking anything. At some point when I became a teenager, I just knew that it was normal to like have a girlfriend somehow. So I had a girlfriend in high school or two, but it was just like someone to hang out with and
do her hair
and hold hands, act normal, I guess. I don't know, but
a beard.
Yeah, and I remember one of them actually, try to like have sex and stuff, and I was like, are you sure, like, you want to lose your virginity, like we may not even be together forever,
Yeah. The best kind of boyfriend ever right there.
Exactly.
No, I'm be respectful.
Which made her probably want it even more.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
God.
So after that, like, I left the house and I kind of dropped off high school, and I had my first boyfriend, and I guess we can say I had like a year and a half or so of like gay lifestyle, if you want to consider it that way. But to me, it was just still part of my journey, finding myself, you know? So, I was with him for a little bit. Then I started dressing up. I was like 16. And I started dressing up because I wanted to go into like bars or clubs, and I couldn't. So there was this club in the Valley that it was like 18 and over. So I ended up using like somebody else's ID. And I just dressed up because someone have like won a pageant, and there was like a wig and stuff, makeup, and you know? So they were like, why don't you come with us? I was like, I can. And they're like, well, you can dress up. So I was like, okay, don't do my brows. My dad will kill me. You know? So yeah, I did it.
Wow.
And we just went out, I remember. So that's how everything started, how I was introduced to like seeing myself as a she, you know, other than just not feeling myself. I was still kind of in limbo. So anyways, we go out, and I remember we stopped at this restaurant. They had like live music and stuff. So I was going to the restroom, and I was waiting, and there was this guy that it's also kind of waiting. So of course I'm going into the female restroom, you know, ever since day one. I was like, okay, so I'm waiting for my restroom, and the guy starts talking to me, and I was like, holy shit, you know? So it was just, I've never experienced, it was like my first time, like a guy approaching me because he's seeing me differently.
Yeah.
So it was like a little like
a
scary
spark.
in a way, you know, yeah, just like, oh my God.
nervous.
So anyways, he starts talking to me, we're talking, and then he asks me, so what is your name? And I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah.
I walked out of the house without a name. I didn't even think about it.
Yeah.
It was so funny. So there was this girl I hung out with since high school, and her name is Diane. Like I remember herself, like always writing her name everywhere, like tagging her name everywhere, like such a chola. So the name came to mind, and I just kind of kept it since then.
Wow.
Nice.
That visit to the bathroom.
Spontaneous.
First, was it your first time going into a female's bathroom?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, it's interesting how for the three of us, doing this has captured that interesting, I guess, persona, and in some way attracting guys that we never thought we could attract as quote unquote gay
Of course.
guys. Or but yeah, we love dressing up, we love what we've been doing and going out, and guys find us
Taking
for the
over
first
Hollywood.
time
Yeah,
West
attractive.
Hollywood.
It's a different
Yeah.
experience for sure. And the thing that was interesting, like what you said, is when somebody sees you as a female and then you feel like they see the real you
Exactly.
instead of whatever the boy that you were trying to it's almost like the boy was the drag part.
Correct.
And, you know, dressing up as a girl was just who you are, you know?
Yeah. So yeah, I started dressing up around 16, and then like 17 and a half, that's when I just liked doing it. Like it just became part of me, and I started taking hormones. And I remember, before hormones, so let's go back a little. I remember I was gonna be 18. So I ended up going to this place before I was 18 because I became friends with, you know, the people and stuff. So they let me go in without me technically being Diane, you know? So I tried it, and I went, and it was just hard for me to dance, and it felt like I was acting to be someone else, you know? So I was trying to do that before I made any decisions, you know, like drastic decisions. So yeah, I try to go out like that, and it just didn't feel like myself. So I got used to like being treated as a female, like, you know, people just being cordial, like opening the door, and you know, it's just amazing. It's part of being a woman. And a lot of people, they're like, oh, so you just did it because they treat you nice. It's like, no, it's just everything that makes a woman. It's an essence, you know, like it just comes with it. It's part of it.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're expecting someone to open the door, because there's only a few gentlemen out there. You know?
I know. Yeah. That's
well,
true.
Should we take a break?
Let's
And
take a quick break.
when we come back, we'll talk more with Diane about her story. We'll see in a moment.
Serve responsibly. Don't drink and drive. Drink some water. After you buy all the vodka.
Order your Serve vodka now.
And we're back.
Welcome back.
We are back, baby. During the break, we were discussing with Diane what her journey has been thus far, what she's done, what she would like to do, and what her goals are. So, Diane, would you like to tell us a little bit about kind of your journey? You said you were 18, kind of that's when you started. That's when you really
17 and a
realized.
half, that's when I started hormones.
Okay.
I had a boyfriend that technically didn't really wanted me to transition. He was okay with me cross-dressing because he met me before I dressed up, and then I came back to his birthday like the following week to that bar dressed up as Diane. So
What was his reaction?
he was fine because I told him like I will come as something else because if not I wasn't able to go in, you know. So he knew. He was fine. We kind of started dating, and then when I turned 18 and I decided I was like 17 and a half. So around 17 I already kind of wanted to start doing that. He didn't want it, me too. So I just decided that's what I wanted to do, you know. At some point my body started changing, skin, mentality, and so was sex, you know? So everything changed in the relationship. And of course, I was like young and in love. So I even stopped my transition for a bit. So I stopped for like
For how
3
long?
months. I stopped taking hormones and everything. I remember I cut my hair. So I do hair, and I remember the client that was there. She was like crying when I cut my hair.
Wow.
She's like, "Why?" And it's like, you know, I just have to. So, anyways, I stopped for 3 months, and then I just realized that unfortunately nothing lasts forever, and I'm like, this man is not gonna be here the rest of my life. And I'm technically going to be stuck in a body that I don't belong to, you know? And I needed to free myself and find myself. So I just decided going back to hormones and didn't care about the relationship and just follow my spirit, follow my soul. Then, you know?
When you were taking the hormones, what about your skin changed? Like describe a little bit about the changes.
So your skin gets softer, gets smoother. Pores become like more minimized. Like it's not so crazy like men texture under skin. So for some people, like facial hair will stop growing or it will just become thinner. So in my case, when I started hormones in 3 months, like technically my nipple just popped, like my areola just bloomed like female, and it was even hard to wear a shirt. Anything that just kind of rubbed on it, it was very painful. So it's just technically like like when a female is just blooming into a woman, you know?
Yeah.
So it's technically the same thing. Some people will get more volume on the breast tissue. Some people will just bloom the areola and then the volume, you know, everyone's different.
So when you were going during this transition in your body, do you had anyone to support you and to go through this with you, or you just decided to do it on your own?
So my boyfriend didn't want to know about it, hear about it, because we kind of like were still together, but I was just doing me, you know? So he didn't want to know about it, hear about it. So I remember we had this walk-in closet, so I would go in and just write how I felt, and just tear it apart and just cry it out, you know? So that was my only way out. And I started hormones and everything. My parents have left me and they went back to my country. So I stayed behind. And yeah, at one point I talked to my mother and I told her, hey mom, like, why do you think if I transition and this and that? So like I mentioned before, she had a sister and she kind of experienced that, you know, with her mom and herself. And she just said, well, I will always love you. I much rather if you didn't, you know? And I was like, well, good, because I'm already 3 months in, you know? Like my nipples are already popping out.
You're like, too late.
Pretty much. So I just kind of asked her a few questions about how it felt for her when she, you know, was going through her hormonal experience and see if I can get some guidance. But I was technically on my own. There was no female around that I could talk to or just ask, you know. Right now, a lot of these young girls are like very blessed that they have social media. They have all this places they can go to or just ask, you know, whatever friends or followers you have. Or you just simple like YouTube. Before it was nothing like that. Like you had to have information on your own. You had to know someone. I remember self-medicating myself when I started hormones. And then for you to get into any program here, anything, you have to go through like therapy to be somehow evaluated and okay for the transition, X amount of months, whatever.
So there's a barrier.
Correct. So you have to go through a process, and then once you go through like therapy, like you go through like the medical, which is the hormones and stuff, and it's different. I technically started just on my own from Mexico. Everybody knew those hormones.
Those are the good ones, the strong ones.
The strong ones.
You can just buy them at the pharmacy.
Yeah,
there, right?
like, and right now people, they're like, oh, like, yeah, there's the pill or it's the patch. It's like, do you want to be a real doll or not? Like the real thing is the shots. Like there's no way around it. If you really want to do it, go for the shots. There's no pills. There's no patch.
So here in the United States, it's you have to do therapy before they will start the hormones?
Correct. That's, yeah.
Do you know the length of time you have to do therapy?
Like I said, I started many
away.
years ago. I don't know
different.
right now how it is. Probably it's different and easier.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you still have to go through some type of process. They're not just gonna medicate you because you say I want to be a woman
Right.
or I am a woman. Like, let me see if you're crazy before you're a woman. Everybody wants to evaluate you crazy before female.
Yeah.
Do you have to take them for a certain amount of time or the rest of your life, or what's the duration?
So honestly, I've been in hormones ever since I remember. So I do 1 shot a week. I used to do every 2 weeks. So what I did instead, I lowered my dosage and I split it in 4 parts throughout the month.
Okay.
Some people cannot handle the strong dosage, so I recommend like small dosage, you know, per week instead of like 2 big dosage. It helps. So everyone's different. Some people can't handle the shots. Some people need to do pills, and you know, everyone's different.
Yeah. So you were talking about changes in your body, changes on yourself. What changes have you physically seen on yourself that you are now okay with, and what changes?
Hormone-wise?
Yeah.
So when you start doing hormones, a lot changes, like skin, your muscle tissue. It softens up. It's not as pronounced, you know. So somehow it softens you. You start retaining water in the right areas. So your thighs, your hips, you know, everything starts changing.
Yeah.
Exactly, like facial features, they start changing. I honestly wish I started when I was 16. I feel like I waited a little too long.
Yeah.
Wow.
So.
You're beautiful. So I
Well, and
completely agree, but
now
I know
when
it's your journey.
Now when kids, when they get to a certain age, they can do hormone blockers so that they don't develop.
T blockers, yeah.
And then at some point they can take either testosterone or estrogen, depending on
your transition.
Yeah. So
I'm amazed, like when I started seeing all this like hot boys, and I was like,
I know. Yeah.
yeah, it's amazing.
Sometimes I have to admit I'm attracted to trans men too. They're so beautiful.
Yes,
Their bodies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I remember I went to this beauty, not beauty pageant, fashion show. So it was like a competition. So I won. Yeah, of course.
Big shock there.
So it was like all kinds of categories. So I wanted to be in like just the female category, but the person that like tell me to go to this place, she signed me up as trans. So it's like, okay, you know, and they couldn't find my file because I filled it up as like female, and she put me under trans. So it's like, okay. So anyways, they fixed it up. So I'm in the trans category. I win. But when we get to the place and before the event and everything, they were going to teach us how to walk and this and that. So I realized that the people in that room was all trans people. And all the males in the room
were trans too?
Were born female.
Wow.
And all the females were born male. So I was like,
that's incredible.
How old were you? When was this?
This was literally like a little over 2 years ago.
Oh,
That would
Yeah.
be so cool to go
Model
to.
hunt.
Huh.
So, so anyway, so there was this cute white boy, and I was like, oh my God, he's cute. So I'm talking with my girlfriend and stuff. So I told her, I was like, I think everyone's trans, you know? So we started talking about it. And I was like, I don't know, mommy. I don't know if I can do that, you know? And she's like, well, now you understand when men hang out with us. And it's like, well, I don't have pussy, you know? So same thing. She's like, what would you do? And it's like, I don't know. Thinking about it, it was like a shocker. But now that I see it more and more and more, I'm like curious about it.
Yeah. Have you ever
I've never
have you hang up or gone on a date with a
a trans man,
man?
never.
No?
But I've been around a few, you know, when I've danced at the Abbey or something, or maybe out and about without even knowing, you know.
Yeah.
is that very common within the trans community to date? Like,
Definitely
women
not as
date trans men?
common. Well, I've seen it more now, and I feel that right now, since we have all these LGBT and all these layers, you know, it's more common. People are more open about it. I come from like a few years back, you know, where you didn't really hear about trans women.
Yeah.
It was that taboo. Like, it was like, do they really exist, you know? And and a lot of the time, just by saying trans women, they expected like a boy with a wig and heels or makeup or something like that. They didn't see what really is a trans woman. And with social media and all these platforms, they're seeing it all, and they see all kinds of layer of femininity, you know?
Yeah.
So it's beautiful. So
Yeah, and somebody can transition, they can be born male and then transition to a woman, and they can still be attracted to women.
correct. Ton of cases.
Because there's what you feel, your
Miss
identity.
Jenner.
Yeah. And yeah, you can also transition to a woman, and like men, or, you know, like your identity is different than what you're attracted to.
Correct.
And some people transition and they still
Yes.
like the same gender or opposite.
Correct. So yeah, like right now, a lot of what's happening is like how you identify yourself is not really how you project yourself.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that right now, you know? So yeah.
Well, did you have to do hair removal at all?
I've always done laser since I remember. That's like a forever thing, baby, until I snip my balls or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's because it's like a forever thing, to be honest. If you castrate yourself, at least you will not be producing as much testosterone, so you don't have to do as many dosage. But to be honest, you have to keep doing it because now that you're not producing it, you have to feed the body a type of hormone regardless. So,
So after the hormone changes, then were there some physical changes that you wanted to do surgery wise to become more feminine or to bring out what you felt you were inside?
I believe that there's always room for improvement.
Yeah.
Yes. So, so I've gone through a few procedures, breast and a little bit of like facial feminization. The next one and the one that I've been waiting for, it's my voice feminization. So that's definitely something that I feel that it will bring completely how I feel on the inside to the exterior, and people will not just see, but they will hear.
Yeah.
What did they do with that surgery? Do you know?
So before I've done my Adam's apple shaved, so they like cut me like right under the neck, you know.
That's part of the procedure is getting your Adam's apple.
Well, that's one of
We've
the
already done
as
it.
a trans. It's like one of the things that, because a lot of the times when people like see female and they're unsure about it, they always want to look at your neck like, oh, is she carrying an Adam's apple? You know?
That's so
So
true.
that's like one of them. Like you could be pretty, but it's like, okay, if I can see under your skirt, let me see. Then, you know? So
Your Johnny Appleseed under there.
exactly. So that's one of the main ones. A lot of girls are blessed and don't have anything,
I
you know.
know. I'm
So-
not. Yeah.
But you're beautiful, baby.
The apple is always there.
So it's separate, or it's together? Like these are
So
two
you
different,
could do
or
it
you can
together
do
or
it
separate.
Okay.
I'm going back because I still feel like I have a little left. The doctor told me I'm crazy, but they're still gonna file a little bit. But the procedure for the boys, they go through your mouth, and technically it's like a little camera and stuff. So what they do, they file your vocal cords, and after they file, they sew your throat, because male throat, it's more like a V, like a deeper V. And by sewing it together closer, higher up, your notes are higher, like female.
the octave changes.
So, and and when you speak, since it's not so thick, it doesn't that vibration. So being softer and thinner and sewed together, it's higher and softer notes.
Oh, it's not as low of a frequency. Interesting. That makes sense when you think about like musical instruments.
Yeah, but I think you can deep throat after that.
I was gonna ask you that.
Yeah, because they told me that I guess when you go for surgery, you need to let them know you had that procedure, so they don't put like a tube bigger than whatever,
Ah,
you know. So
Okay.
good to know.
That's why your makeup always stays so clean then.
she doesn't deep throat.
She can't.
No, she does.
So I have a really good friend that transitioned from male to female, and she never really felt comfortable with her penis and with her, male parts. And I know that aside from the transitioning, that there are some people that they really want to get rid of
Correct.
those parts, and there are some people that don't. That's not a problem. They don't feel that that's a...
Correct. So it goes down to how you feel inside, because the way I see it is like having a vagina doesn't make you a female. It comes from within. It comes from inside. So unfortunately, we live in a society where it doesn't matter how pretty, how beautiful, how passable. There's always going to be people, especially sometimes female. There's like, well, you can have a kid. You will never be a woman. It's like, bitch.
Yeah.
I don't need to have a kid to prove anyone that I'm a female, you know?
Right.
And even if you had a pussy, it's like, okay, yeah, but you can have a kid. So there's always something, you know? So when it comes to transitioning, I don't believe that what you have between your legs, it has to do or it matches with who you really are. So me personally, I'm comfortable with myself. I guess I'm a nudist, if you want to put a label to it. I come home and first thing I do is just I just free myself. I just get naked. Perhaps it has to do because I run around every day tucked away to the gods. My eyes are poking out and everything. But I had to, whenever I was out and about, I had to be tucked away like that. And that's what made me feel comfortable. Once I come home, I free myself and I see myself in the mirror and I see female, despite what you see in the mirror, you know?
Yeah.
So I thought about doing it before, but I don't want to rush myself. Maybe in the future, I would like to age like a female, because if you keep your part, especially your testicles, your body will always keep producing testosterone.
I see.
So you will always have to fight the demons.
The demons from down under.
Totally. So it's an always story, you know? So I would like to just be able to just spread my legs and go to Ibiza and get a tan and don't worry about anything. However, like I said, the world is changing. People are more educated to an extent about us existing, you know?
Yeah.
And that there's all kinds of layers, and it just comes down to respect. And, you know?
Speaking of educated, this is a did you know thing. So you know that men are XY and women are XX for their chromosomes, right? So if you're born with XX, then you're a woman, XY, you're a man. But there are some people who are born XX, which is female, that their bodies develop as men, as male.
Really?
And there are some people that are XY, which is male, that develop as female, that it doesn't necessarily mean that your chromosomes make your organs develop. And there are a large percentage of people walking around today that have different chromosomes than their gender is. And the only way to know about this is to go and get tested by a doctor.
Maybe I'm more of a female than I thought.
Which
I
is
was.
really
Ooh.
interesting. Yeah.
That is interesting. What a fun fact.
So a lot of people haven't been tested in the past, obviously, because we haven't had that technology, but now we do, and they can determine if people are male or female by their genetics, and their body doesn't necessarily follow, what your genetics say. So it's really interesting. There's a lot of different anomalies walking around that some people are born with ambiguous genitalia too, not male or female.
Yeah, just like when you're a kid, sometimes kids have more female hormones or the other way around. You know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and they want to
I know.
beat it up out of you. It's like, I was meant to be a bitch. Let me be, What's wrong with this?
So have you run across any problems if somebody's interested in dating you? At what point do you tell them?
So sometimes I thought people knew. Sometimes my boys give it away, or sometimes would just talk about it. But there's been certain times where I thought they knew and they end up running out of my house.
Wow. Okay.
Oh, really?
With their shoes on their hand, even on a rainy day.
After. You mean after?
No, they will literally run out the door. Yes.
And you know what? There's a lot of...
And they will call me 30 minutes later. I'm so sorry. Can I come back? Sorry, baby.
no.
I already have somebody else in here. Too late.
You're already
You're
gone.
worse than me. I love her.
So, dating and being out there and living life, how is it for you personally? Do you live every day just like a regular person, a regular woman? Or do you do things that you rather not do some things because of obviously you're afraid
Okay, no, so before I started my transition, I honestly cross-dressed for a whole week. I cross-dressed for a whole week, and I lived my life as a female to see how I was accepted by others and their reaction, and just to get a little feeling of what was it to be a woman for a whole week. So, and I had no issues. I had no problems. I started my laser before I started my hormones. I remember I did laser for like 3 months, and then like hormones nonstop. So after that, like I technically have lived my life just like as a normal person. I've always done hair, so I always had a regular job and deal with like regular people daily basis. And technically I'm besides a stylist, you become a therapist. Like you're talking about life experiences, kids, sad stories, all kinds of stories, breakups. So I technically have lived my life very normal, I would say. Yeah.
Have you ever had to present your driver's license and at what point did you change the documents, or have you changed your documents?
I'm still Pedro.
Yeah?
Really?
No, I'm joking.
I don't believe that.
Pedro Rodriguez. No, so I couldn't change my documents for like a long time because I wasn't legal here. So I come from another country, like I mentioned. So we couldn't even have a driver's license.
Oh, yeah.
So anyways, then finally I was able to make some changes. But whenever I had to use like my passport from my country, people, like let's say I was buying alcohol or whatever, they would look at me and they would look at the passport at me, and I was like, okay. And they will ask me like, why do you have a boy name? And it's like, ma'am, I think all you need to worry is my age, like,
Yeah.
And I'll be like, well, my parents wanted a female and they named me that, nosy. Right. But yeah, and I remember one time I had a boyfriend and we were gonna travel together somewhere, I don't remember, Miami or something. And he's like, okay, babe, like I need to buy the tickets, like give me your name, I'm in front of the computer. And I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, yeah, like whatever shows on your ID. And I was like, I can't. And it's like, he's like, what do you mean? You I need your, and I was like, I can't, I'm so sorry. I'm like, let me text it to you. So, and I did, so I texted to him. It was not a big deal. We travel, blah, blah, blah. Another occasion, we were going through, security, airport, whatever. And the lady, she looks at my passport and she looks at me and she looks at my passport and she's looking at me like really hard. And he looks at her and he's like, she fooled me too. It was like the funniest thing. I swear it was the funniest thing. But yeah, that lady was just like tripping balls. Like, what's going on here?
So do you think people are getting better about that? Or do you feel that some transgender people get harassed or don't,
Well, unfortunately, there's going to be all kinds of ignorance even in 10 years from now. That's never going to change, It just, we have to somehow educate the people ourselves. And I feel that it all starts with us. If we present ourselves the right way to others, they have to respect that. If I believe I'm a dinosaur, you have to respect me. I'm a dinosaur, If I'm decide I'm blue, like I'm blue.
Yeah.
That's
There's
what it
the
comes
dinosaur
down
here.
to. That's what it comes down to. Like, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Sometimes, and that's the reason we created this platform with podcasts, because the time we've been dressing up and going out, we get asked a lot of questions in our personal lives, at work, from our family members. It's always a question about the dressing up or the being gay or just so many things that are out now.
She's like, let's make money out of this.
Yes, but no.
Well, people want to know if we're
Educate, of
transitioning
course.
ourselves. Or,
Educated to get the bag.
Exactly. Yeah. Tell them how we feel. And it has been actually fun trying to educate somebody. And like you said, making them believe that we're dinosaurs or that we're blue
Yeah, just
because they don't know.
allowing me to be, because some people will always be against, like I said, it doesn't matter how feminine, how beautiful, or how passable you are. There's always going to be something to pick on because you weren't born whatever, But
Yeah. But people are always gonna judge you no matter what and look at whatever they want to look for their own personal insecurities or
sometimes I remember I being like at a club or somewhere or whatever, and there's been a guy or two that came and they're like, I keep staring at you the whole night and da 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 da, and I was clocked just because I guess I was like too pretty, too perfect, like from the way I was dressed to the way I did my makeup or my nails, like everything was so perfect, and they were like nitpicking every detail. And that's the way they clocked me because I was well too put together, well put together.
That's a compliment and a slap.
Yeah, it's like a slap in the face with a compliment. Some sugar on it.
yeah.
Moral of the story: just be who you are, be fierce, because people are gonna have things to say no matter what. So
Totally,
let them
baby.
talk.
Put those lashes. Get the 8-inch heels.
Yeah.
But what's interesting too is people used to, I think transgender people used to really want to pass or not be clocked. But I think now there are people that are searching, that are attracted to trans people. And so I think there's an attraction to all sorts of different genders and everything in between. So people actually are seeking out people that are transgender because they're attracted to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is
now
a
it's
whole
more,
different thing.
now it's more acceptance and they're out.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing that I have discovered about the trans community is that you girls are so strong, like you girls support your community so strongly, and it's something to admire because as a gay person, you don't receive that support from other gay people. From what I have experienced, the trans community has been like, I don't know, like very
They watch
there for each other.
Okay, so maybe that's
tell
the
me if I'm wrong.
perspective you will get from being like in West Hollywood, like gay environment and stuff like that. But to be honest, trans community, I don't feel like there's a lot of support. It's maybe that, like I said, the illusion that we get from being an outsider. But a lot of the time in the trans community, if you're prettier and stuff, like they like you less. A lot of the times there's more competition or they're more catty. I try to say hi to everyone. I go dance, I perform. So I'm like friendly to people and just try to just be nice and make my money and go, But yes, not so much now, but years back, like the way that girls would just communicate was fighting.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fighting how? Just like physically
fighting
even,
each other
or even
physically and just like, So unfortunately, like that's been changing a little bit. They're expressing themselves. I just call security. Can you please walk me to my car? It's like I don't fight. Like honestly, there's no reason, especially because you find one person, then this person has a friend, and it's just like a never stop situation. Just be a lady.
But maybe,
walk away.
maybe to Esmeralda's point, I do think that there is a little bit more of a nurturing quality to male to female, especially, and maybe the other way too. But there's like a nurturing quality, and maybe the stuff that I feel too is from being a gay man, and the transgender male to females that I meet are very nurturing and accepting of me, and maybe with other trans, maybe not as much, but I see the same thing as Esmeralda, that there's a love there. Maybe it's the estrogen, or maybe it's the, I don't know, the maternal instincts, or maybe, accepting who you are.
Because when you go into like a trans environment, like a fully trans environment, the energy is different.
Yeah.
It's more of a catty. It's more superficial. Look at my purse. Look at my new nose job. And, shit like that. So it's like, okay, homegirl.
Yeah.
Okay. Really?
So it becomes a little bit more superficial, to be honest.
Yeah.
Than if you're like in a gay environment where it's like a whole mix of crowd. There's like so much magic and glitter in the air that like they don't care about the trans girl.
Yeah, I can see
like-
that.
How do you think your
I
life?
love you.
I love you.
I love you too, lady.
Oh, we love you too. How do you think your life would have been different if that moment you decided to make the choice to go in this direction, if you would have stayed like what your dad wanted you to be?
Baby, I don't think there's another option.
Yeah, that was only one road
There's
for
only
you.
one road. Honestly, like I honestly see myself sometimes in the mirror, and it's like, how silly to think to like stop and turn around and go back to what, I look at myself. I'm 5'6". I'm very petite, like slim, slender, and as a female, if I want to be with a man, I want to be with a man that makes me feel secure, so I want a 6 feet daddy or some shit like that, and feel protected. Like every female wants to feel that. So being 5'6", it's like no female wants to be with me. Like being 5'6" and like skinny,
Yeah.
So I think I make a better girl.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you gravitate more towards straight men or gay men?
Okay, so that's a funny question because, okay, so let me answer your question before I go sideways.
Okay.
So I like obviously straight men.
Okay.
Gay men don't really like trans women.
Okay.
Right now, like I said, everything's changing and labels are being mixed up, and we love it. Live your best life, But from what I experienced, like I said, I had a boyfriend, and I realized since I was young that gay men don't like trans women. So I experienced that since I was very, very young. And yeah, so I do hair. Sometimes I have my clients, and like they'll see like a boyfriend or something, and they'll be like, "Oh, who is that?" And it's like, "Oh, just my boo," So they'll gag or whatever, And they're like, "Oh, so he's gay?" And I was like, "What do you mean gay?"
Yeah.
Well, yeah, he likes you, and like you don't have a pussy.
no.
And I was like, okay. And I was like, no, but that doesn't mean anything. So I kind of explained to them. So a lot of the time people will see that because a gentleman is with you, he's just already identified as gay just because he's with a trans woman.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, but that's not that reality. Like
Right.
straight men love trans women.
That's
Yeah,
right. We're
they
breaking
do.
down those stereotypes one
Yeah.
at a time here, because people assume stuff and it's
Barbie
not
doll
true.
doesn't just come with a pussy. 2023, baby.
That's right.
That's
right.
true. Yeah. Well, do you like coffee?
Yes.
You do? Well, we're going to go on a coffee break and we will be right back.
Yay.
My name is Daniel, and I am the Chief Jefe Officer of Good Juju Coffee. We are based out of LA, but our coffee is sourced from my grandparents' farm in Nayarit, Mexico. Check us out online at goodjujucoffee.com and order a bag today. Use code TQueen and receive 50% off your entire order. Every bag of coffee is delivered directly to you from our farm to your table.
All right. We are back. How was your coffee anima?
Amazing.
Coffee enema.
we before we went on a break, we were talking about you living your life as a regular person, as a woman. Tell us any experiences that you have had with you living as a female, as a woman, let's say at work, for example.
Well, living as a trans woman, unfortunately, will come across experiences, all kinds, and some not so pleasant, So there's been an occasion or two where there was like a family waiting for me for like a haircut, and the child wanted a haircut, and they're just waiting. And I remember the owner asked if they needed some help, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we're waiting for him." And I just like overheard. I was like, "Excuse me." I don't say anything. I keep working, and then when I'm done, the boy thinks that he's next, and I felt really bad for the boy, to be honest. But I honestly did this just to teach the parent a lesson, because he was the one addressing me as a he. So I remember I told the boy, I was like, "I'm so sorry. I know it's your turn, but unfortunately I can't cut your hair because your dad does not know how to respect others." And
Wow.
it was a little heartbreaking because of the kid, but I guess
Yeah.
it will teach the dad a lesson. And then another occasion, a lady as well, like, "Oh yeah, I'm waiting for him," and I was like, "What?" So I keep doing my thing, I keep working. Then when I'm done, I approached the lady, and I was like, "Sir, are you ready for a cut?" I was gonna wash her hair and stuff, and like she looked at me like, "Oh, crazy," and I was like, "Oh, you don't like that either." I was like, "Why don't we start respecting each other?"
Yes.
So I believe that everything, despite hormones, despite anything, everything starts from respecting ourselves, respecting others, and technically project who you feel you are, not who you think you are, because a lot of people think that we think we are something, and it's not that we think. It just really, it comes from within. It's who we're meant to be. And it's a long journey, and it's not always a happy journey. There's a lot of tears, and sad stories, but keep moving forward and don't stop believing in yourself.
Yeah, I think it's very important for people like you and anybody to stand up for things that are, people being misgendered, and for people not calling you what you want to be called, out of respect. People, if they don't know, they should ask. And, they should call you by what you present as and not what they think your birth certificate says.
Exactly. And a lot of the times, like, honestly, I feel that I was blessed in a way, because I blend in with the females, so it's not like, oh my God, she stands out. And when I was misgendered, it was annoying, because it's like, okay, like, what do I need to be wearing for you to respect me? Like, I don't really wear pink, but I don't think that was gonna make a difference. So people are just crazy.
Yeah, they need to be educated, and they need to be corrected.
Exactly.
And I think the way that
don't
you
be
did it,
scared to speak your mind.
yeah, the way you did it is really nice too. Using
Respectfully,
some
you
humor.
can put people in their place.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they'll think twice next time. So, if there are young listeners that are tuning into this that are questioning whether they should go through with transitioning, what advice would you give?
I will say, just listen to your heart and your spirit, your soul. Don't do it because it's a trend or it's the new thing. I feel that a lot of now people are doing it because they think it's like, oh, it's the new thing. It's like buying a Balenciaga. It's not a Balenciaga, It's going to become who you are going to be. And, as beautiful as it could be crazy for others because you could go into the path that you just did it because of the glamour or the gifts or the attention from the gentlemen instead of just following your heart and your spirit, you know? Sometimes turning back could be crazy, you know? I've seen a person or two that they bloom into a beautiful female and they just literally went back and it was like, go back to what? You know, like you were amazing. But unfortunately, sometimes they're encouraged because of family not accepting them or because religion or because the boyfriend or because of this or because of that. Just remember that the only thing that matters is just you. Always you. Family will always be family unless they choose not to be. And me speaking, you know, for my self experience, there's been so many people around me that have supported me and loved me as I am that I have not really needed my family to be holding hands with me. It's been a journey kind of on my own, but somehow you always find love on the way.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead.
So your aunt that was trans as well, she did not support you very much, or was she not a resource for you?
Honestly, I remember her as a child as like beautiful green eyes, tall, curly hair, light skin. And that's what I remember of her. She was honestly murdered back in my country, and I guess because of that reason, because she was trans, you know, we found her like 8-9 months after. She was found in like some desert, and technically you couldn't like really know who she was because they disfigured her face with a rock. So the way my mom identified her, because she always had like beautiful red nails, like toes and long red nails. So that's how they knew it was her.
Wow.
So I never really got to experience. So when my grandma saw me for the very first time dressed as a female, I remember my grandma just breaking down in tears and crying. So I kind of felt her pain because she was seeing her daughter.
Yeah.
And I remember her telling me like, never get into stranger cars and, you know, caring for me. So that was heartbreaking.
That is very heartbreaking. But your grandma kind of was looking after you in that way, or in her own
everyone
way?
technically have accepted me, and the ones that didn't, somehow I pushed them to be educated towards it. Aunties or something, they will say like, oh, mijo, like a boy thing, you know? And I will not reply to it, and I will be, unless you're addressing me as a she, as a her, like I will not reply, you know? And I just didn't until they learned how to treat me as her, as Diane. And I barely come around family, to be honest, but whenever I do, they respect me as she, you know? And I feel that it starts from your home, because unfortunately, like I have a cousin, and my cousin, they will still address her as like he or whatever, and I was like, why would you allow that? Oh, it's my mom, oh, it's my grandma. And it's like, no. I'm like, you start educating people from your home. It starts from your home. They need to respect you from your home. And if they can respect you at home, how are you gonna expect to be treated on the outside, you know? Right. And then honestly, the battle starts at home. You start educating people at home. Then it's you against the world, baby.
Yeah.
You have a family now with us, and you
ladies.
3 members of your family, and we're always gonna be here for you. And hopefully this episode today sent a message out there to a human being, and all we want to do is send positive messages and information out there. We appreciate you so much for being here.
Thank you.
What an incredible story. You are an inspiration. Your strength and being who you are is incredibly inspiring. Thank you.
Thanks, my love.
Thanks for coming by.
No problem. I love you, ladies.
I love
We
you.
love you too, Diane.
We will see you out and about.
After my voice
Your voice.
organization.
Yes. Are you going to Colombia to do it, or?
I'm going back to Colombia. I'm getting it done, so I'll be back on the next show with a cunty boy.
Ooh, we can't wait.
Yay!
If you guys enjoyed this season, maybe we'll bring back season 2. Who knows? Maybe Sarah will be dead by then, but yeah.
No, she's the only blonde in the group.
That's right.
That's true. Well, thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Tina, for being in this journey with me.
Thank you, Miss Esmeralda.
Yes, thank you,
everyone, for listening. Thank you to every guest that came into the show. And we will see you around.
We'll see you. And we do have some information that's going to be on our website for anybody who's struggling with trans issues or anything else. Resources that you can find
Of course.
to get help, help with your documents if you need those changed, or help with, surgeries or hormones, those things like that. There's a lot of resources for people.
Trans-Latina Coalition. It's one of them. They support a lot of trans women.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Trans-Latina Coalition.
Perfect.
Miss Bambi Salcedo.
Okay.
Yes.
Perfect. We'll make sure to reach out to them and let them know what we're doing too.
Of course.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Goodbye,
Yay.
everyone.
Goodbye.
Love
Goodbye.
one another.
Thanks for having me over.
Thank you.
Bye.
If you like what you heard and want to leave any questions, comments, concerns, or just want to say hi, email us at madamhousepodcast@gmail.com, or you can contact us directly at Insta. Mine is at Sarah Problem.
And mine is the Esmeralda Life.
Mine's at can.tina, or you can reach out to our group Instagram, the Tea Queens Official.
Subscribe, like,
Comment, review, rate.
And send me photos.
please.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.